I was backpacking alone with my two dogs, Max and Bella, in the Cascade Mountains back in 2023. It was my third day out, about 15 miles deep into the wilderness, far from any dirt road or trailhead. That evening, I set up camp at around 6,000 feet in a wide, grassy clearing near a rocky ridge, just as the trees started to thin out. The sun was about an hour from dipping below the horizon, casting long shadows over the valley. As I pitched my tent and started preparing a quick meal, Max, my German Shepherd mix, usually loves to bound around the campsite, chasing scents or squirrels. But this time, he was acting off. He stood rigid, ears perked, staring at the dense pine-covered slope above us, letting out low, uneasy barks. Not his usual playful yips when he spots a chipmunk. These were cautious, almost nervous. A couple of days earlier, I'd found a scribbled note tucked under a cairn at a trail junction, warning about a mountain lion spotted harassing campers nearby. I'd also noticed some large paw prints in the mud near a stream the previous morning. So Max's behavior had me on edge, wondering if something bigger than a rabbit was lurking. I decided to scout the area a bit before hanging my food bag. The only decent trees for it were up that steep, forested slope. I climbed onto some large rocks at the base of the ridge, scanning the trees for any sign of movement. Max stayed close, whining softly, his eyes fixed uphill. I didn't see anything, but his unease was contagious. Still, I needed to secure my food, so I started up the slope, gripping small trees to keep my balance on the sharp incline. It was tough going. Every few steps, I'd lean against a trunk to catch my breath and avoid sliding back down. About 80 feet up, I heard a loud rustling maybe 40 feet ahead, like something heavy moving through the underbrush. Max's low growl turned into a fierce, snarling bark, his hackles raised. My pulse spiked and my mind raced. If this was a mountain lion, Max might try to protect me and get hurt, or worse. And if I had to bolt down this slope, I'd likely trip and tumble onto the jagged rocks below, a good 10-foot drop. Bella, my little terrier, started yipping frantically from the tent below, where I'd left her zipped inside so she wouldn't wander. Her barking only ramped up my panic. I froze back against a tree and called Max to my side. He pressed against my legs, still growling, as I tried to steady my shaking hands. Then I remembered my headlamp clipped to my hat. In my adrenaline-fueled haze, I fumbled to switch it on, nearly smacking myself in the process. I aimed the beam up the slope, expecting to catch the glint of animal eyes. Nothing, but we'd both heard something, and it hadn't sounded like it moved far. I knew something was out there, and I had to figure out what if I was going to sleep at all that night. Steeling myself, I kept scanning the trees. Max suddenly lunged forward a few feet, barking wildly, as if challenging whatever was there. That's when I saw it, a figure moving against the fading sunset, breaking the ridge's silhouette. My breath caught. It wasn't an animal. It was a person, crouched about 60 feet away, dressed in tattered, earthy clothes that blended into the forest, almost like a crude camouflage. Their face was smudged with dirt, and though I couldn't make out their eyes, I felt them staring right at me. I stood there, heart pounding, locked in a silent standoff. I wanted them to know I'd seen them, but fear glued my voice shut. Bella's barking from the tent grew more desperate, snapping me out of my trance. It was getting dark, and I couldn't stay on this slope. I'd risk breaking my neck trying to descend in the dark. Slowly, I started back down, keeping Max close. Every few steps, I'd pause, lean against a tree, and glance back to make sure the figure wasn't following. By the time I reached the rocks at the bottom, Bella had gone quiet. I could just see the top of my tent from there. When I got to camp, I found Bella outside the tent, pacing and growling, her tail stiff. I was certain I'd zipped the tent shut, with the zipper high enough that she couldn't nudge it open. My stomach churned. Had someone or something opened it? Shaken and angry, I grabbed my small pistol from my pack, fired a single shot into the air as a warning, and crawled into the tent with both dogs. I didn't eat, just lay there, gripping the pistol until dawn. At first light, I packed up and hiked out, determined to get back to my car. It was a grueling 12-mile trek downhill, and I didn't reach the trailhead until dusk. At a campsite a mile from my car, I ran into a group of hikers. Exhausted but relieved to see people, I shared my story over their campfire. They were headed toward the same ridge the next day, but changed their minds after hearing what happened. We all hiked out together in the morning. When I got home, I looked up reviews of the trail online. My skin crawled as I read about others who'd felt watched or had strange encounters in that area. One post mentioned a hiker who'd gone missing near that ridge a year earlier, and another described finding eerie, makeshift shelters nearby. I haven't been back since, and I don't plan to. I was thrilled to spend a chill evening at my best friend's new condo for a game night. It had been ages since we'd hung out, and we were ready to catch up. Her place was warm, a bit cluttered with colorful decorations, but it felt so welcoming. We were in our coziest hoodies, ready to play some board games. Her condo wasn't super neat, stuff was scattered here and there, but it was clean and had her unique vibe, which always made me feel at ease. We decided to grab some burgers for dinner. My friend Lisa mentioned that a guy named Trevor, someone I hadn't met, would drop off the food. I wasn't thrilled at first, thinking she'd invited someone else to our night, which wasn't the plan, but I was in for a surprise. Trevor was just the delivery guy for the evening, not crashing our game night. When he arrived, he seemed super nervous, juggling the burger bags and barely looking us in the eye. Lisa introduced us quickly, and her overly grateful attitude hinted that Trevor did more for her than just deliver food. After he handed over the bags, we had a brief, awkward chat. Lisa was extra kind to him despite his shyness. He wasn't great at small talk and seemed out of his element. Then, out of nowhere, Trevor asked for my number. I felt cornered since Lisa was right there, so I gave it to him. We talked for maybe 5 minutes before Lisa gently nudged him to leave, saying, "Thanks for the drop-off." He got the hint and left after we both gave him a quick, friendly wave. When I asked Lisa about him, she explained that Trevor was like her unofficial helper. He'd pick up her groceries, deliver food, and do random errands. I got the sense he was a lonely guy, maybe craving connection, especially with girls. Lisa and I were both 25 and a bit naive back then, but we could tell something was off about Trevor, though we couldn't quite pinpoint it. A few days later, he started a group chat with us, sending random jokes or memes every few days. It felt like he was trying to stay on our radar without being pushy, maybe because he'd been ignored by others before. He also kept offering to help with errands. I politely said no the first time, but he asked every few days. One day, I slipped up and accepted his help. I'd found a cheap coffee table online, but had no way to pick it up. When I mentioned it in the chat, Trevor jumped at the chance to help. He picked it up and even assembled it at my place, which was a huge relief. I offered to pay him, but he refused. I insisted, and he suggested I join him for a walk in the park as payment. It felt a bit too personal, almost like a date, but he made it sound like just a friendly thing to balance out the favor. I agreed, thinking it might be a kind gesture since he seemed lonely. Still, I was nervous about being alone with him. On the day of the walk, Trevor picked a local park I knew well, beautiful and usually busy. As we strolled, he talked about normal stuff like his job and favorite shows. Everything seemed fine until he suggested we take a quieter path to see something cool. I got uneasy but followed. We reached a secluded spot, and there was a creepy old shed, half broken and covered in graffiti. Trevor stood there, way too calm, saying he thought it was interesting. My heart raced. It felt like he was showing me something weird on purpose, maybe to unsettle me. I mumbled that I had to get back for an appointment and started walking back to the main path, urging him to follow. I wasn't sure if he was playing some strange mind game or trying to make himself memorable in a twisted way. Back on the main path, I spotted a jogger and asked for directions to the parking lot, pretending I was lost. I kept chatting with the jogger until he offered to walk us back. It was my way of feeling safe after that creepy moment. At the parking lot, I called Lisa and said Trevor was dropping me off at her place in 15 minutes. I also texted her about the shed, just to have it on record. When I got to Lisa's, we thanked Trevor and politely sent him on his way. I spilled all the details, the creepy shed, how calm Trevor was, everything. Lisa was freaked out, not just about the shed, but how unbothered Trevor seemed. She admitted she'd always felt something was off about him, but never imagined anything this weird. We decided Trevor had to go from our lives. Lisa relied on him for errands, so we made a plan to phase him out slowly. We'd only respond to his texts when others were around and gradually cut back on replies. I stopped asking for his help entirely, and Lisa asked for less. Trevor kept texting, offering to run errands, but Lisa would say, "I'm trying to do things on my own, but thanks." Eventually, when Lisa started seeing a new guy, she introduced Trevor to him, and Trevor stopped reaching out. I reported the creepy shed to the park rangers that night, but I didn't hear anything until weeks later, when a local news story mentioned an abandoned shed in the park being investigated for vandalism. They arrested someone unrelated to Trevor. I'm not sure if he was connected, but it left me unsettled. Looking back, the lesson is clear. Always listen to your gut when something feels wrong. It was almost 15 years ago when this strange incident happened. It's an old tale now, and I'm confident no one's in danger anymore. My family owns a piece of land that borders the San Juan National Forest in Colorado. It's been ours for generations, and my friend Sarah and I used to spend our summers there. The place is stunning, lush and green, with crisp mountain air that felt like a gift after the dry, dusty plains of home. My dad, a former military man, raised me and my brother to be outdoorsy. With just us two kids, he made sure we knew our way around the wild, teaching us survival skills, self-defense, hunting, fishing, you name it. To us, it was pure fun, but I think he saw it as his duty to pass down what he knew. We'd spend weeks each summer exploring the forest, wandering through old mining cabins and marveling at the big ditch project built for the Animas River back in the late 1800s. Or so I think. I'm fuzzy on the exact date. The San Juan is a hiker's paradise with its high mountain lakes, trickling streams, and abundant wildlife. This particular event happened when I was in college, and Sarah, a high schooler and my closest friend, joined me for the summer. My dad was stuck at home working, only popping up every few weeks, while our mom stayed near the property or in town, painting landscapes. Sarah and I were left to roam the Jeep trails and hike to our heart's content. It was late June, maybe early July, and we decided to trek up to Hidden Lake one late afternoon. That lake's a favorite of mine. Viewed from the right spot, it's shaped like a heart. We packed light, each carrying a hammock to lounge by the water, and set off prepared for a chill day. I'm an outdoor junkie, quiet enough out there, and I swear the trees whisper to you. Plus, we always carried knives, a habit Dad drilled into us for safety. The hike started off great. Our summer cabin sits pretty high up the valley, so we walked to the trailhead and took the path towards Silver Lake, branching off for Hidden Lake. We passed a few hikers headed to Silver Lake, which was fine by us. It meant Hidden Lake might be ours alone. The trail's a solid workout with switchbacks near the end, but the payoff is worth it. A sparkling emerald green lake nestled in the mountains. Sure enough, we had it to ourselves. After circling the shore, we wandered into the treeline to find a spot for our hammocks. That's when Sarah wrinkled her nose and said, "Do you smell that?" I did, a sharp, bloody stench we both recognized from hunting. Then I saw it, an elk carcass, surrounded by its organs arranged in a neat circle, with little rock piles marking the gaps. It wasn't just a messy kill. This felt deliberate, almost ritualistic, and it gave me the creeps, not an easy feat for someone who doesn't flinch at gore. I stepped back, and Sarah started to say my name but froze. That's when we spotted him, a guy standing maybe 20 feet away, near a cluster of trees. He was drenched in blood, wearing tattered camouflage clothes that barely clung to him. At first glance, I thought he was naked, but I wasn't about to stare. His eyes were wild, like he'd lost his grip on reality. Was he hiding? Watching us? I couldn't tell. Dad's voice echoed in my head. If you're not in control, take it. Do the unexpected. Sarah was trembling, on the verge of bolting, so I stepped forward and called out, "Hey, nice kill. Bauer rifle?" He didn't move, just stared with those unhinged eyes. I figured he was some hunter gone feral, high on the thrill of his elk. He locked eyes with me, and I stared back, my hand resting on the knife at my waist, not to draw it, but to show I wasn't defenseless. Sarah edged behind me as I tried again. "Have a great hunting day." Still nothing, just a statue of a man, silent and eerie. We retreated to the lakeside and hurried around the shore. Sarah took the lead, shaking like a leaf, while I fumed. If this guy wanted to play psycho with his elk, he should have picked a deeper part of the woods. At the trailhead, we paused to catch our breath. Sarah was in shock. I scanned the trees, making sure he wasn't tailing us. We started down the trail fast, hoping to hit the Silver Lake Junction or bump into other hikers. But it was late afternoon by then, slim chance of company. Neither of us spoke about it yet, just moved. Then I felt it, that prickling sense of being watched. I kept glancing back, seeing nothing, hearing nothing, until pebbles started pinging around us. It had to be him. Sarah sped up, nearly running, but I'd had it. This was my forest. I'd grown up here, claimed these trails, and no nutcase was ruining it. "Go back to your elk and leave us alone." I yelled, Colorado sass in full swing. Sarah hissed at me to shut up, but I wasn't backing down. The pebbles stopped, replaced by faint whistling and humming drifting through the trees. "Now he's whistling at us," Sarah muttered, terrified. I told her to keep moving and ignore it. He trailed us the whole way, those weird sounds popping up now and then, but I never saw him. Near the Silver Lake Trail junction, the noises faded. He'd backed off. We powered down the rest of the trail, Sarah refusing to look back while I kept watch. No more signs of him. When we finally talked, she was convinced he was dangerous, some sinister creep. Me? I thought he was just a jerk getting a kick out of scaring us. He'd probably heard us coming. We were loud on purpose to ward off bears. To this day, she swears he was evil. I say he was a coward with a twisted sense of fun. We told our parents. Dad was livid, doubling down on our defense training and banning us from hiking alone after that. Sarah was too spooked to go back for years, and I hated recalling a time I felt fear in my woods. Later, I learned Mom had called some neighbors. The next day, a few guys hiked up and found the elk carcass, plus some empty day packs and a cleared-out campsite deeper in the forest. Whoever he was, he'd vanished. I'm in my late 20s, and this happened not too long ago. I'm lucky nothing bad happened, but it was a close call. There's a nature reserve near my town, next to a community park and a quiet street. It's a popular spot for joggers and families, with signs saying there are cameras around for safety. It feels like a safe, normal place to walk, a wooded area in a busy neighborhood. I love being alone to clear my head, so I go when it's quiet, like early mornings or when it's drizzly or chilly, but not unsafe. I avoid busy trails because crowds stress me out. One cloudy Tuesday in March, I went to the reserve around 7 a.m. It was cold and misty, perfect for an empty trail. I wanted to practice my map reading skills in a safe spot where I wouldn't get lost. In the parking lot, I saw just one car, a dusty gray SUV with a man inside. He glanced at me, but I didn't think much of it. I was excited the trail was empty. I headed off trail to a quiet meadow with tall grass, not a place most people go unless they mean to. I was following my map, picking landmarks, when I heard crunching leaves behind me. I turned and saw a man, maybe late 40s, wearing a dark hoodie and jeans, a bit scruffy. He looked out of place. My stomach tightened, but I have anxiety, so I told myself to stay calm. Maybe he was just walking. I kept moving, pretending to check my map, but I felt uneasy. To test if he was following me, I turned back toward the main trail. He kept coming. I sped up, heart racing, and got back to the trail. He was still behind me, maybe 40 feet away. I hurried to my car, noticing he was watching me as I left. I drove home a different way, feeling spooked. I didn't go back for a while. A couple of weeks later, I returned to try sketching some birds I'd seen before, a hawk I spotted in the same meadow. It was late afternoon, around 5 p.m., on a damp, chilly day. I checked the parking lot, no gray SUV, just a black van and a white car, both empty. I thought I'd have the place to myself. But as I walked the trail, I heard footsteps behind me. I brushed it off at first. People walk here, it's fine. Then I went off trail to the meadow, and there was that same crunching sound. I turned, and it was the same man from before, same hoodie, same scruffy look. My heart sank. I felt alone and scared in that quiet meadow. To be sure, I moved to where I'd seen the hawk and stopped to look around. He showed up nearby, acting like he wasn't watching me. I was terrified. Then I noticed another person in the meadow, a different man, maybe in his 30s, with a cap and sunglasses. I gave him a quick nod, trying to seem calm, and he nodded back. I rushed back to the trail, my mind racing. Were they connected? In the parking lot, I scribbled down the license plates of the van and car. The first man caught up and called out, "Need a lift?" I shook my head and kept walking fast. I glanced back, and he was driving his SUV slowly behind me. At a busy street, I crossed into a crowded plaza to lose him. He stopped at a corner, stared at me, and pulled out his phone, maybe taking a picture before speeding off. I took a long route home and reported it to the police. They took my statement, but said there wasn't much they could do without more evidence. I haven't gone back to the reserve since. It's made me nervous about being alone in quiet places, which I used to love. I'm okay, but I think I got lucky escaping before anything worse happened.